We're backdooring, you know about backdoor Roth IRAs. Patiently waiting for the sponsor bot IPO so I can funnel all my retirement into it. I do not foresee us doing an IPO personally. I'll never say never, but I'm kind of thinking, IPO is free money, but it depends on your own position with your company and how things are going. There are plenty of companies that can IPO safely and then other ones that IPO and it crashes down. And it's all about how you handle it. Can you imagine sponsor bot on the NASDAQ? Could you imagine that? I could never imagine it. I feel like if I had a company that IPO'd, I'd finally feel like some sort of like mega more billionaire. I think even if I made crazy money, unless I had something like that, it would just probably feel like nothing because I would, give it all to my family anyway. All the kids in the family, I'd set them up with a little, trust fund for college, that kind of shit. But if I had something that IPO'd, I feel like it would feel like that. You know what I mean? Because I just can't imagine living luxuriously. I just can't. Have you done a video on like personal finance, investing and I'm passive, this kind of stuff, but not on your level? I don't know how you'll learn this stuff so well. No. I think you could learn this stuff just as well. You just have to Google. There's so many good articles and things out there and like forums and things where people talk about investing, personal finance, all of that. And you just have to take a little bit of a genuine interest. Probably best not to get into financial advice, could create some liability. And it depends on how you word it. That's why people they say stuff and they're like, this is not financial advice, this is just what I do. And then they go about their video or whatever it is. I actually love talking about that stuff, but I find it's one of those things where I'm like, you get a little into a special interest and you start rambling about shit where people are like, their eyes start closing, their ears start closing off. That's why I'm always like, I don't want to start talking about stocks. I don't. I love math. So whether I actually engage in any sort of thing or not, I'm always really interested in talking about it. If it's about math, if it's about pulling a lot of factors together and trying to figure out a thing, it's so fun for me. But I'm like, I need to not get on those topics, like genuinely, like to actually deeply talk about them, unless I'm making a separate video or some shit, because I love that shit, man. Some people get uncomfortable around financial talk. I know some do, but I think they need to suck it up and listen because they need to shake off the uncomfortableness because it's something that affects them so heavily. And it's so important to be educated on it, So genuinely important to just know how this stuff works. I have a lot of friends that have been in bad financial situations and have, kind of grown out of it a little bit. And I feel like a lot of what they were missing was just knowledge on how a lot of this stuff works. Finance knowledge is just general financial knowledge is just so
here in my
important.
Garage.
Here in my garage. Fiscal literacy is what keeps a lot of people poor. Yeah. I think educating yourself on these things is so important if you want to improve your situation. So if you feel a little uncomfortable with those like kind of financial topics because it's unfamiliar to you, shake it off, start taking interest in it. It'll be good for you. Genuinely. It's not discomfort, is that some people are wired to understand this and some genuinely aren't built to understand financial and business. I wouldn't say wired to is the right wording there. I get what you're saying. A lot of people won't wrap their heads around it, but you can find so many good like layman's explanations of this stuff. People who, especially with content creators nowadays, I think back in the day this was not the case, but nowadays there's so many content creators that can lay these things out for you in ways that you will understand if you're not the type to be able to normally understand this stuff. And it doesn't mean you have to have the same deep understanding that they do, but they can lay stuff out so at least you kind of get it. At least you can protect yourself from accidentally doing stupid shit with your money, right? You know what I mean? So I think, I don't know, like YouTube has unlocked everything for everyone is the way I feel. You want to take a genuine interest in something, or you just want to learn about something casually or whatever, like you can find something for that. So I don't know, just take care of yourselves, research stuff. Go look things up. If you don't know something, if a question pops into your head, go find the answer. It's just so available. The problem is when the content creator doesn't know what they're talking about, but they really make it sound like they do. Everyone does that. Some do it more obviously, and the thing is, most people aren't actually doing that on purpose. They're just talking off the cuff, and it's uninterrupted because they're not having chat verbally interrupt them, right? So hearing uninterrupted speech always tricks you into thinking, oh, this person thinks they know what they're talking about, which isn't necessarily it. They're just giving opinions, right? There will also be some that will purposefully, give misinformation. That is also true. But I think a lot of the time it's not actually intended by a lot of people. They're just talking and they're just giving like what their formulated opinion is based off of their experience. And then people will be like, I can't believe you fed me these lies. And they're like, I never said I was a textbook, But you shouldn't have to preface literally everything you say by going like, by the way, I'm not an expert. By the way, I think I am, 3 out of 10 on knowledge share. Like you shouldn't have to do that, But yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of bad info out there. There's a ton. I always, dude, there's always so much misinfo about like streaming, finances related to streaming, how things work. I realize that the sponsor market, like now that I'm like, you know, elbow deep into all the stuff I'm doing with this company, and then I've been elbow deep in how this all works for a while. The creators themselves don't know anything about any of this stuff. Very few do. And even the ones that know some, unless they've literally done the work, they wouldn't know. It's one of those markets? Market isn't the word. Spaces, spheres, whatever, that you wouldn't understand unless you've done multiple parts of the job. Like unless you've been a creator and then been a manager and then worked at a publishing company and then, you know, and you can sort of like gather this info by knowing those people and talking to them a lot, but you have to be in a job or position where you talk to them a lot, like constantly about their work and what it's like and whatever. And like no creator does that. You know, no creator really does that. And even their agents don't really do that a lot sometimes. So it's kind of, I don't know, there's not a lot of info that's based off of anything or that is even true. So I'm trying to do what I can to like fix a lot of stuff, you know, just fix everything. Opinion on fire versus standard, sorry. Accent moment, standard retirement planning. It just depends on your personal ability. It depends on your personal ability and your time put in. I don't have too many thoughts or opinions on it because I've never, well, I'm going to be real with you. Financial independence, retire early is fire, right? And the idea is you go through like super extreme saving and a lot of investing and stuff when you're young so that you can retire early. That's what that is. I don't think that's in the cards for a lot of people, number one, like at all. But number two, I've always lived really frugally. So I think everyone should be doing that. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean retire early. It just means save and keep working and save and keep working. I don't know. I read about it and I'm like, isn't this like what everyone does? But I was raised like that. I was raised to not want anything. I was raised to not spend unless like you literally have to, you know? I've only been spending slightly more to live since becoming a content creator because my time is stretched so thin. So yeah, I might actually use DoorDash occasionally. Even then, a lot of the time I go pick up food because that's the cheapest format of eating out, quote unquote. But I get a walk in. That's when I get to walk. I don't go outside otherwise a lot of the time because I'm inside working. And if I spent the time to cook all of my food, go food shopping, cook all of my food and clean, that's time I'm not spending working. And time is money. So for me, it's still like the best, most frugal scenario is I work more and have someone else prepare food, which means I go grab it, right? Stuff like that. So, you know, even for me, it's like, I still try to live what I think is the most genuinely frugal version of what I can do, you know? Using work pants until they fray. Yep. I've always done that though. I mean, I don't know. I just genuinely, for most of my life, thought that people lived like that. I thought that they didn't really spend much money. I thought they just had, you know, their house or their rent, their phone, their car, and whatever's necessary to live. Whatever's not necessary would just be things that they use all the time, like your cable. I thought that was all people really needed. I didn't really go over friends' houses when I was young. We always played in the street and you know? But then I started going to people's houses as I got like a little older here and there, and I saw the way they lived and things that they spent on, and I saw what people's closets looked like, how many pairs of shoes they had near the door, things like that. And I was like, oh, I really noticed it late because I just like hadn't seen how they live, you know? And of course, like, you know, people were not yet posting all over social media. So you just didn't see this. And I remember just seeing people spending on things that weren't necessary. And I was surprised to see that. I was like, oh my God. I'd go home and I'd be like, Mom, can you believe like this person has like a female friend of mine who's also young has 8 pairs of shoes by the door, right? And I'll be like, oh my God, she had like 8 different pairs of shoes in like a shoe rack. And my mom does the, hey, puts hand on shoulder. Most people like own stuff. And she was like, hey, I had to tell you something, you know? And she was explaining like, no, we live more frugally than other people do. Like genuinely, like we just do. And sometimes it was out of need. Sometimes it was out of, you just should. And then the thing that surprised me even more was seeing some of these friends where like this was the one that killed me. Every year for school, they'd get a new backpack. I would remember this, you know, you get a new backpack for school every year. Meanwhile, I used the same one until it literally died. And even then I was sewing to repair it. But I remember seeing a couple of kids get like a new backpack and I was like, what the I had one that was handed down to me that I used for like 8 years straight. That shit was dying. It was like that meme with the guy with the Gucci belt and he's got it all stapled together and they're like, come on, bro, give it up. You gotta let it go at some point, right? And my backpack looked like that. And I still was like, let me cut a bit off the strap and re-sew it. Like I was just doing all of this. And I think I only ever had 2 my whole life and I never bought them. They were handed down to me every time.